And just to add a little bit, these centers, as I mentioned a little bit last night, but some of you were not here, they're very precious places because there's a lot of dedication by people to set them up, and then you have a place to come to work with your mind and to try to counter negative mind states as they come up. And this is our path in Tibetan Buddhism. So this center also has opportunities where you can get involved. And the other thing is we are part of a larger organization called the FPMT, the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition. It's a very long name. And it was given that name by this beautiful being right here, Lama Yeshe, the founder. And his heart disciple was this man in the middle, the smaller picture, Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So they're kind of our founding teachers. Lama Zopa Rinpoche is still alive in his 60s. He's Sherpa by birth from the Mount Everest region of Nepal. And so they started this organization, headquartered now in Portland, Oregon. And the neat thing about it is the centers run autonomously, but they share the education materials that were created by FPMT and teachers like myself and Lauren and many people. So and there's a comprehensive education program from intro to beginning courses, intermediate, advanced, and teacher training. So everything's there, and there's online courses, and there's courses like Buddhism in a Nutshell as an intro course that you can also find online. And this is a book I co-authored that's for sale here that the organization asked me to do. So there's a CD, an audio CD in the back that's an 11-hour course that takes you for a whole overview of Buddhism. So the organization has all kinds of courses like that, and it's fantastic this center's here. So for some of you it's nearby, and it's phenomenal, and so thank you very much for the center being here. One last thing I was going to mention is I also lead pilgrimages, and there's cards on the table if you want to pick up. The next one is in September to Burma, and it's a fundraiser for the Liberation Prison Project that was started by a friend of mine, Venerable Rabina. She's on this card as well, leading a retreat in Indonesia, and it raises money to bring Dharma to prisoners around the world. So they asked if I could lead that. So if you have any friends that might be interested, or feel free to pick up a card. So thank you very much. So everybody's got the book and the gold prayer book, right?
Yes.
Okay, so just relax for a moment and we'll just begin. So we talked a lot last night about Tara, and I'm not going to repeat all of that right now. I think most of you were here, which is great. And we're also going to incorporate some sadhana practice. So you're visualizing an aspect of the Buddha. This time it's Tara, which represents enlightened energy. It's a beautiful tanka of Tara. She's like an emerald green goddess. And there's 21 versions of her as well, and they all represent different things. We'll also be reciting some Tara praises, and it's a fantastic thing for the center because it clears obstacles. So Tara praises also clear obstacles for anything specifically you need in your life as well. So I just thought I'd introduce you to those. Some of you are familiar with those, like that. In the Tibetan month, Tibetan calendar, which is a lunar calendar, on the 8th of that month is Tara Day. And it's a really nice day to do a Tara practice, to recite some praises, something like that. It's a special day. You can do it every day, but those are days that some of the centers do a specific Tara practice. And basically with the dedication that it clear obstacles. So you can come up, if you wanted a break, you can have a look at the Tara like that. Then we're also going to incorporate meditation on the lamrim, which is one of my more favorite things to do. So the lamrim, I think most of you know, lam is path, rim is stages or steps. So this is a gradual transition of your mind, hopefully to something better, to enlightenment. And the lamrim it's a gradual process, and it takes you through many topics of the foundational philosophy that our practice is built on. Okay? So it includes topics of the the advantage of being a human, that this situation's passing away quickly, we're going to die. It talks about death and impermanence. When you do die, things could be much worse. What will protect us from that? Our refuge. Once I've taken refuge in Buddhism, again, they call that the sacred door through which the teachings are entered. I have to understand how to conduct myself. So it talks about karma. Suffering is included, the different types of ways we suffer, that there's an end to the suffering, and developing the good heart, and developing a level of meditative stabilization, applying that to the nature of reality, emptiness, and becoming enlightened by having synthesized all those topics. So it's fantastic. The other traditions of Tibetan Buddhism also have those topics, similarly, sometimes in a slightly different order. And in this tradition, Gelugpa tradition, we call it the lamrim, like that. So by meditating in an analytical fashion, you can penetrate from having an intellectual understanding of one of the topics, and it moves it here until you have an experiential realization. That's why we do analytical meditation. So we're going to combine that a little bit with a kind of placement meditation, and I'll explain that as we go along. So back to our small retreat that we started last night. Thank you very much for joining. So let's just start with some basic meditation. The most important part, again, is to have your spine as extended as possible, as if the back is straight. If you're sitting in a chair, perfectly fine. Just have your feet straight down, so the body's balanced. If you want to put a pillow under your feet, fine. We place our palms near the level of our navel, the right palm on the left face up, thumbs are touching, it's right against the body to keep the body erect. You can also check that there's some space between the arms and the torso, and this is a relaxed posture. You're not gripping in this posture. You're not too rigid. The head is slightly tipped forward. Eyes are lightly closed or slightly open. Focus towards the tip of the nose or the floor in the space in front of you. Lips are lightly together, and the tongue is curled to touch the upper palate and the mouth. So this cuts down on the production of saliva, so you're not swallowing as much, which can be a distraction in meditation. Take a minute to scan your body, releasing any tension you might be holding, bringing yourself to as relaxed a place as possible. Just checking again, make sure you're not holding tension in your brow or jaw, where we hold a lot of tension. Neck and shoulders. And every exhalation you can release a little bit more of that tension if you're holding it. And slowly allow yourself to focus on a normal, natural breath. Following the air moving in and out of your nostrils, or the rising and falling of your abdomen, whichever is more comfortable. So when the mind wanders off the breath, again, simply observe that you've lost the object of concentration, and observe without any further story or elaboration or judgment. You become aware, and simply, with gentleness directed toward yourself, bring the mind back to the breath. It's always nice when you're beginning a daily practice or any session in retreat to start with this sort of placement meditation. So it's a type of shine. Shine is a Tibetan word, calm, abiding. So you place the mind on an object and have it abide there calmly. Have it stay there without wavering. It's difficult at first. We can barely keep the mind on the object. It's very normal. You just gently observe and you bring the mind back. Bring the mind back to the object. It just allows us to settle here in the space. And then one of the most important things about any session, but really any activity in our lives, is to set a proper motivation. So take a moment to consider why you're here right now. And if you can add in a Mahayana motivation, which is focused on getting enlightened, so reaching a fully awakened state, becoming a Buddha, which means in Sanskrit, fully awakened being. The reason we would like to manifest that mind state is then you're unlimited in helping all other beings. So it's a means to the goal of benefiting all others. So see if you'd like to include that in your motivation, great. And set a positive intention for this day. And then to set us off on a more positive course, the very beginning of the lamrim is the topic of precious human rebirth. By reflecting again and again on the advantages of being a human, it's a counter to low self-esteem issues, counters depression. So there's traditional ways to meditate on it, and there's also ways to just reflect on the good situation you have in this life and the good qualities you have. Low self-esteem doesn't want you to focus on that. So as Bodhisattva warriors, we go to war with the less than generous thoughts we have about ourselves and our lives. This is one way to do that. So take a moment right now. Please reflect on the situation we have in this part of the world, that we live with relatively clean air to breathe, relatively clean water to drink. Just reflect on that right now in your life, keeping your concentration there. What it's like to go into the kitchen, put your glass under the tap, pour the water, and you can just drink it right out of the tap. Or you can easily put it into a filter and then drink the water from the filter. No problem. We go out every day, we breathe the air, we never think about it. Beautiful day today, quite clean outside. Take yourself for a moment to a phenomenally polluted city. New Delhi, India, Beijing, Kathmandu, Nepal, Kolkata. Imagine you're walking around the city, visiting one of these places for a few days or living there. I was in some of these places recently. I don't have any particular difficulty with my lungs. After 3 days, in these places, I had upper respiratory problems, wheezing, shortness of breath, and every day I had a sore throat. I didn't have a cold. So just for a moment, walk around in one of these cities like that. When I would blow my nose, black would come out. So try as much as you can to be in one of those places right now with compromised air quality. In Kathmandu, the quality of the water is so poor, the hygiene, the locals have to boil and filter their water before they drink it, if they have those facilities. A number of people in the city do not have those facilities, so they are carrying water to their homes and drinking water that's got various bacteria, worms, parasites, like that. Take a moment and imagine if you lived in one of those places, and imagine every day having to carry your water back to your home that you need for the day. Imagine your level of health based on drinking this water. Try as much as possible to be in the mind of one of those beings. Be in their lives. So come back to your life now, how the air and water is in your life. The ease of that in your life. Breathe it in. Fully appreciate that situation. Let that wave of gratitude fill up your whole body-mind. And you can imagine a wave of appreciation soaking through your pores, moving through all the different systems of your body, washing over every organ, melting all the way down to molecular level, and cascading through every thought, every emotion, every memory and experience. Completely penetrating your body and mind. So now reflect on some other wonderful situations in your life. I know we all have problems. Okay, this is not a meditation focused on the problems, because most of the time we're focused on the problems. So think about, you woke up this morning in a comfortable bed. You have shelter. You're relatively safe. You have access to fantastic markets with wonderful, nourishing food. You've had access to decent public education. We live with some relative physical ease in our lives. You may have a loving family and friends, decent work, on and on. And you have a variety of good qualities. Sometimes your problems and your low self-esteem does not want to allow you to see those qualities, but they are there. So this part of the meditation, please reflect on your own life, personally. So focusing not on just the situations you have, your good qualities. Take whichever ones you like, really focus on those and relish them and appreciate yourself. This is a situation you have set up for yourself. And again, let that wave of appreciation soak through you. And so having this unique, wonderful opportunity, let's make a resolution to try to direct as much as we can throughout the day all the activities we do with our body, speech, and mind towards something positive that moves us along this path to full awakening, so we can be of the most benefit to all others. Please relax and slowly open your eyes. Please feel free, if you need to stretch, to stand up and straight in place and just have a stretch. If anyone needs to go to the bathroom, please feel free. So in retreat, it's perfectly fine to take a break for 5 minutes. Okay? And you don't want to speak necessarily, just keep the mind kind of where it is or still. Okay? So another thing is, I'm just picking on you for a moment. When you sit, have the hands right here next to the body, because they're down here and you start slouching. Okay, so you want to a little bit. So a little bit we have to hold the hands there, and eventually it becomes normal. But there's other meditation postures. So some people have their hands there. You could try that. I know there's a yoga posture. People put the hands. But you can experiment with things. But this is called the 7-point Vairocana, or Vairochana posture. And Vairocana is an aspect of the Buddha that represents form. Okay, so this is our form that we sit in. And apparently this has been very effective for meditators. Like that. But again, find, you can experiment with sizes of cushions or chairs. That's important. So find if you need a higher cushion, lower cushion, that's important to make sure that the body is going to be comfortable. By sitting practice, we call it, practice, we're rehearsing to put our mind in the right space. It's a rehearsal, all this practice. And even the body will get comfortable in this position. For those of you that might want to sit like this. I know yoga can help people, but just out of practice, my body adapts. So I started sitting when I was 27, and a little bit before that, but more formally, maybe at 27, when I was much younger. My body was in much better shape. My knees were much better, right? I couldn't sit for more than 10 minutes then in this position. And usually at the end of the 10 minutes, it was just really painful. Okay, so just because I sit a lot, now that my body's adapted and I'm much older, so it's totally possible like that. But you just have to kind of get to it consistently. It's also nice if you're doing sessions, that was a little bit longer, but you can start with shorter sessions and you'd have a little schedule. Let's say you have a weekend retreat. You'd have keep to a little schedule. I've got a session from here to here, like that, because otherwise we get a little undisciplined. So be clear about the sessions, make sure you're there on time for the sessions. It's okay to take a 5-minute break in between. And what I would do sometimes to freshen my mind is I might not move my body, open my eyes, I might look around the room a little bit, kind of wake myself up. No problem. If I need to stretch, I might stand up in place. If you find you're getting drowsy in the sessions, then just open the eyes a little bit and let some light in. So we'll just wait for the last person in the bathroom. And I'll mention, if you're interested in understanding more and more how to do lamrim meditation, I just introduced Precious Human Rebirth. That's one way to do it, a little bit unconventional. But what you could do is there's 18 situations, for instance, that make up a Precious Human Rebirth. So something called 8 freedoms, 8 situations we are free from as humans, and 10 endowments, and 10 things we have in the situation. What you would do outside of a meditation session is you'd learn what the 18 situations are, and you might have them on a piece of paper or highlighted in your book, right? And when you sit down, the first freedom is, well, you're free from being in different realms. So for instance, we could say, you're free from being an animal. And maybe just you take a 15-minute session, maybe 20 minutes if you have the time, if not 10 minutes, and you be an animal in your mind. How many of you have pets? Okay, that's the peak of the animal realm. That's not most of the animals. Our domestic pets are, you know, living pretty good lives as animals, kind of the top. Most animals live in the sea. The insect realm is vast. And if you really check, and you have to do this in meditation, you check the lives of an animal. So in the wild, mostly they are eating, killing to eat, being hunted, going to the bathroom, sleeping, and making more animals. That's what they do. So you have to actually thoroughly investigate through that. So let's say you could be a snake, and you try to be in the mind of a snake. No arms, no legs, slithering on the ground. A lot of people are afraid of snakes. We're so much bigger than snakes. Imagine what it's like. You're on the ground, kind of coiled around a rock or in a path, and a human walks by. And the vibration, you know, this huge thing is coming by. So imagine the mind of that snake. And you try to be in the mind of that snake, and you give it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then come back to your own life. Oh, often like a sense of relief. So even be your dog, be your domestic pet. They go out when you let them go out. They eat stuff that appears to be disgusting to me. Okay. Look how they lick themselves and groom themselves. Look at their fears. They don't understand. They're terribly afraid of things at times. Many, many things like that, not in control of their lives. They're not here in this retreat today because they don't have the level of intelligence. So you be in the mind of that pet. You think it's great to lay around and sleep all day? Okay, so slowly, then you come back to your life. Appreciate. Notice the difference. Okay, so the way we combine analytical meditation, replacement meditation, shine, is, so anytime you're analyzing, and we were just analyzing, and sometimes it gets here, and all of a sudden you go, oh, you know, I'm a human, I have every perfect opportunity right now. And anytime you have that little aha, juicy moment, then you place all your concentration on that experience. Okay, and it can deepen the insight. And then it's going to fade, or the mind gets distracted, and then you go back and you analyze again. You get to this place, and then you keep all the concentration there, as long as you can. So again, that's how we combine analytical meditation with shine, and then it tends to deepen some realizations you have on the lamrim, and that starts to change your life. So I also want to recommend, this is a book, I really love this particular Geshe Acharya Thupten Lodin. These books come from Australia, I believe. They're expensive and they're heavy, but this is Meditations on the Lamrim. It's fantastic. He has all kinds of books on, I think he's passed away now, but he's got all kinds of books on the lamrim and different books. I think you have some in the library here. This is really nice because you can just read the meditation if you like, if you're not familiar how to do, and you just pause, take a sentence or two, meditate on that deeply, go contemplate it deeply, go to the next sentence, like that. Sometimes you can get a basic book like that and do. So let's turn to Green Tara. Again, this brilliant green goddess. And there's a way to combine a deity practice with lamrim meditation. So we did this practice last night, briefly. And again, Tara, the liberator, she was an ordinary princess at one point who gained incredible insights and realizations by following the Buddhist path. Inspiring story. Some of the tradition has that Chenrezig, who's the Buddha of infinite compassion, that the Dalai Lama said to embody in Sanskrit Avalokiteshvara. Chenrezig, Buddha of infinite compassion, was so overwhelmed by the suffering, because compassion wants to free others from suffering, he cried, and out of one of his tears she sprang and said, "I'll help you." So she's a very energetic force, aspect of the omniscient mind, like that. There's many different deities, many of them are here in this room, like that, images of the Buddha, images of the enlightened mind, and they each tackle something. So we have infinite compassion, there's an aspect of that, there's several aspects of that, right? Tara, there's 21 versions of her. This is the namesake of the center, Tantric deity Guhya Samaja, okay, or Samaya, like that. Beautiful deity. This is Yamantaka. This is the wrathful aspect of wisdom. Okay. So basically there's different aspects because you need different things at different times. If you're having trouble understanding the philosophy, you want to study more about emptiness, so then you might, sit in front of a statue of the Buddha of infinite wisdom, Manjushri, or a tanka, and really talk to him like a friend, like, can you help me understand this? There's mantras you can do of his that deepen your wisdom, if you do it with faith and understanding. So they're all there for a purpose. Okay? Tara, I mentioned last night, I'm on a retreat, there's obstacles in the retreat, so I was told, talk to her, she'll help. And I really felt like she helped to pacify. Again, we don't relate to them as beings. At a higher level of realization, you see there is a Buddha. There's Buddhas in these images. Okay? So, but at least maybe we try to develop faith. Instead of asking limited friends and family for support, what if I just talk to Tara? Judeo-Christian culture, there's people, Christians, that talk to Jesus and Mary, that say, can you help me? You're praying for somebody in the hospital, please, help me, like that. People pray to God. Their idea of God and things. So like that, you make a connection, and through doing these practices, you create a closer connection. So we're on page 5. So let's read together. I take refuge in the Holy Guru, essence of all Buddhas, original grantor of all holy teachings, and Lord of all supreme beings. Please, Guru Buddhas, bestow on me the ability to unify my mind with the Dharma and be successful in practicing Dharma in order to achieve the graduated path. May no hindrances occur while achieving this path. And then we have the 3 motivations of the lower capable being, the middle capable being, and the higher capable being. And this takes you through the whole lamrim, okay, based on the different scopes. So again, we start with refuge, and just seeking that I'm putting my faith in some of these holy beings, because I would like protection, and they are an infallible source of protection, as we discussed last night, the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. The other things, our other coping mechanisms, don't seem to really, they offer temporary support, but not literally ultimate support. So again, to further understand refuge, you would a little bit explore the qualities of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, to understand that maybe it is a source to really know for me, to really help me with problems. Okay. And then you often want to clear the, say, and say, I'd like success, can you help me? Please, to have no hindrances right now. Okay, so we just set a little tone of that. And let's read through these lamrim. It's like a scanning version of the lamrim based on the different motivations. Please bless me to realize that I have received a perfect human rebirth, which is highly meaningful, for many reasons difficult to obtain, but perishable, transient, and fragile, decaying in the shortest moment because of its changeable nature. Thus my death is definite, but its actual time is most indefinite. And after death I am far more likely to be reborn in the lower suffering realms, having created infinitely more negative than positive karma in this life and all previous lives. Please bless me to comprehend how incredibly unendurable is the suffering of the lower realms, that I may take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha with all my heart, and realize the evolution of karma in all its profundity, that I might perform only virtuous actions and abandon all negative creations. So here we've got precious human rebirth, death and impermanence, the fragility of life, the lower realms of existence, refuge and karma, all contained in this motivation, which is I am terrified that when I die things will be much worse. And that motivates me to practice. And then build on that motivation this next one. By practicing in this way, I will be reborn in the upper realms, but will still have to experience unlimited samsaric suffering because of uncontrolled delusion and karma. Please bless me to realize fully the evolution of samsara, from uncontrolled rebirth to death to rebirth, and to follow day and night the three higher trainings of the path: higher conduct, higher concentration, and higher wisdom, which are the main methods to release me from samsara. So again, this motivation is, so even as a human, in the life I have now, still so much suffering. So wouldn't it be great if I could bring about an end to my suffering? Reach nirvana. Nirvana is liberation. It's a permanent cessation of all your afflictions, all your suffering. Okay, fantastic. And then built on this motivation is the next one. The Sutra Path. But as each sentient being has been my mother, and as most of them are in extreme suffering, please bless me to bring success to all by renouncing the perfect happiness of self and practicing the Bodhisattva's deeds of the six perfections with a Bodhisattva's mind of exchanging self with others on the basis of the equanimity meditation. Thus shall I have no sorrow in experiencing the samsaric suffering of all other sentient beings, for no matter how long, having trained my mind in the general path. So this is acknowledging, even if my suffering's ended, all these other beings are still suffering. Wouldn't it be fantastic if I could really develop the wish to free them from their suffering? Okay. There's some methods, two main methods to develop bodhicitta. We will do those meditations tomorrow. So bodhicitta is, we may get to some of them today. Bodhicitta is the enlightened attitude. Bodhi is enlightenment. Citta is mind. Mind of enlightenment is about cherishing others more than ourselves, and also wishing to reach a highly realized state so we can benefit all others. Okay? And both methods are based on equanimity, having equal regard, equal respect for all beings. Okay. Vajrayana path. Please bless me to follow the quick Vajrayana teachings by feeling sentient beings suffering, very unimaginably unbearable for even the shortest moment, as my own, and to achieve the attainment of Shakyamuni Buddha immediately, this very moment, by keeping my ordinations and the instructions of the Guru with the best and highest care in life for the sole purpose of enlightening all sentient beings. So this is talking about Tantra, the quickest path. Once you've got a great basis of the philosophy, the lamrim, then you can take a proper initiation with a qualified guru, and then you can build upon that as the quickest path, like that. But good to be ready for that. Okay. So kind of a little bit sets up our motivation of the foundation, the way a lot of sadhanas are based. And just take a moment now. I will guide you through the meditation, so don't worry about your book right now. And I'll lead you through a variation on this practice with Tara. And she's going to help invigorate us to do more of our meditations and things. So just sitting comfortably. So visualize over top your crown is the radiant green goddess Tara, or Arya Tara. She's like an emerald green jewel in the nature of light. She's about 6 inches in height, facing the same direction as you. Her left leg is drawn in to show she has control over desire. Her right leg is extended out because she's ready to spring up and serve all living beings. Her left hand is at her heart in a mudra of granting realizations. Her right hand is at her knee, holding the stem of a blue upala flower. It is a tall flower with the flower up near her ear, her right ear. She's beautiful and radiant, and she's draped in beautiful silks and adorned with precious jewels. And she is very happy, and she exists just to remove obstacles from all aspects of our lives. And imagine as if she's really there over your crown. At her tiny heart is a moon disk, so a little white circle lying flat. In the center of the moon is her seed syllable Tam, T-A-M. You can imagine a radiant green T-A-M standing in the center of the moon. Standing clockwise around the edge of the moon is her mantra, Om Tare, Tutare, Ture Soha, radiant green light of this mantra, like a brilliant strand of emeralds strung together. If it's difficult to visualize, imagine this radiant emerald green light over your crown, representing all of her qualities of enlightened energy. She also has at her forehead, throat, and heart 3 other syllables. Om, Ah, Hong. So at the forehead is a white Om, O-M. At the throat, a red A-H, Ah. A-H, just visualize. Again, in the nature of light. At her heart, and this is why we can visualize a couple different things at the heart because they're in the nature of light, is a blue Hung, H-U-M or H-U-N-G. Either's fine. And these are radiating light. So visualize now from the white Om at her forehead, imagine an arc of light comes around from her over your crown, and comes around, and this white light goes into your forehead, purifying all negativities you have done with your body. And from the red Ah at her throat, an arc of red light radiates around to your throat, purifying all negativities you've done with your speech. So all the negative speech we practice. Imagine it lessening, lessening, like that. From the blue Om Hung at her heart, an arc of blue light radiates around to our heart, purifying all the negativities we've done with our mind, all of our non-virtuous thoughts. And imagine now from the green syllable Tam in her tiny heart, green light rays radiate out from every pore of her being to the 10 directions, spreading out through all the space, and it invokes from all the enlightened beings in the space around us, even though we can't see them, so to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas requesting their blessings. And they're very happy to offer these blessings, and the green light and radiant rays descend back into Tara's heart, fully energizing her. If you can turn to your book now on page 7. Just below the first paragraph, it says, make a heartfelt prayer. Page 7. So we really want to imagine her there, and let's read this line. Please remain above my head until I receive enlightenment. Refuge and bodhicitta. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened. To the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merit from giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened. To the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merit from giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened. To the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merit from giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So what's helpful is we usually, when we recite that prayer, and the next prayer, the 7 limbs, is people put their hands in the mudra of prostration. You can. It's not an obligation, and it's a little bit more powerful for the mind. So mudra of prostration, the thumbs are inside. It's like the jewel in the lotus. Okay, so your thumbs are never empty, and in a sense, it's the easiest way to make an offering. So it's not a yoga hand thing, but you always want to have something in your hands. You know, you don't want to have like an offering. It creates poverty for you. You know, making like having water bowls turned up with nothing in them. Okay, so it's a little symbol like this, and sometimes Lama Zopa Rinpoche says it's so powerful if you just put your hands. If you see an image, you just put your hands in this respectful posture, can create some positivity for you. So what you can do in your own practice is find a way to get the book held on its own, if you like to do that. Some people recreated and printed out their own form of the prayers with spiral bound, so it would sit flat. It's up to you. That's why the Gold Prayer Book, it sits flat. It was designed that way. Because many students commented in, we want it to sit flat, I don't want to hold pages. But some of the booklets, we'll take questions a little later, some of the booklets are, you know, you can just position in a certain way. And so refuge and bodhicitta and any of the prayers, it's very important to actually reflect on what they are rather than just blah blah. We get into habits where we just start reading prayers without much thought about it. So it's nice to reflect a little bit at refuge and bodhicitta. Again, refuge is safety, shelter. You know, what's going to protect my mind from more suffering? And, you know, the Buddha, in fact, the whole path is contained in this 4-line verse. And once you've taken refuge and had a formal refuge ceremony, you're technically required to recite this prayer 3 times in the morning and 3 times at night. It's a short prayer, but you have to think about it. You know, I go to my friends and family when I have a problem. I eat, I run to the movies, I watch TV, I get involved in sports, I escape. And it gives me a temporary relief from my problem, but it's not an ultimate fix. So the Buddha jewel is the omniscient mind. Well, that's all-knowing. That would, if I sought advice from that, that would help because they know. The Dharma jewel of philosophy, you know, that's a great source of particularly emptiness teachings, really cuts your suffering, cuts the root of the suffering. The Sangha jewel, the qualities of those who've had a direct perception of emptiness, let's say, they could help me. They know how they got there. They could guide me a little better. Again, you check up for yourself what kind of refuge, what really supports you. Okay? And then bodhicitta, the reason I'm doing this is so many beings are suffering. So can I reach a place where I'm unlimited in helping them? That's a refuge formula. That's what those 4 lines. So have some thought about that. And then usually you can then say the prayer. Okay? You want to make your practice rich and juicy. And if you're practicing for 10 years or 20 years, it gets stale. You reach plateaus, you get bored. It's a normal part of practice. So you have to find ways to really understand the essence of the prayers, and you can alternate some prayers that create a little variety. Westerners like variety. We're not all Westerners here, but our cultures, they like, so mix it up. That gold prayer book has all kinds of different prayers in it. You might find something in a magazine that inspires you. Clip it out, put it on your altar. Put it on the table if you sit somewhere. Read it, maybe it moves you for a little bit. So then you start to get mature in how to design your practice, what kind of prayers work, and you have a basic format, then you can add some things in. So these are some standard things we do, Refuge, Bodhicitta. The 7-limb prayer is about paying homage, respect, making offerings, confessing non-virtues, rejoicing in virtues, asking the Buddhas to stay until samsara ends, because then without them we have no guide, asking them to turn the wheel of Dharma, which means teach, and then dedicating the merit. Very profound. This is the shortest form of this prayer. There's a longer version, elaborate version, in a practice we do called Lama Chopa, the Guru Puja. It's a long 7-limb prayer. Okay, so let's read this 7 limbs. With my body, speech, and mind, I devoutly prostrate. I offer all offerings, both real and imagined. All sins and offenses amassed from beginningless time I confess. I rejoice in all virtuous actions of holy and ordinary beings. All gurus and Buddhas, please remain until samsara ends and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. All my virtues and those of all others I dedicate to the great enlightenment. This particular prayer you can build in other nundro or preliminary practices. Okay? So when I did water bowl practice, a water bowl retreat to offer many water bowls, I had some preliminary setup of prayers and practice, right? And then I set up the bowls that I wanted to offer in the right way to set them up. And then I sat down and did some Refuge and Bodhicitta, and then I would read, with my body, speech, and mind, I devoutly prostrate. I offer all offerings, both real and imagined. And then I stopped there. Okay, and then I visualize making the offering for however long you want to do it. However long, however short, however much time you have. I would stop, and then I'd read the rest of the prayer and dedicate. And if you want to do it consistently, I would get up, empty the bowls, and start over and do it again. But you could do some water bowls before you go to work. I know someone who had a table, they set up 100 in the morning before they went to work, left them, went to work all day, came back, took them down, and did another set before they had dinner. 200 a day. You do 200 bowls a day and you want to finish 100,000. So that'll take you a year and a half. You'll be done 100,000 bowls. If you want to do prostrations, you can read the first sentence, with my body, speech, and mind, I devoutly prostrate. Stop the prayer there. Then you might have a prostration prayer that you do, like confessions to the 35 Buddhas, or prostration to the 35 confession Buddhas. Very profound prayer. Slowly you learn it. Over time, it takes some time. Memorize, understand how to make prostrations. They can show you here at the center, slowly. And then I'd stop, and you say, I want to maybe do in this life 100,000 prostrations. It's incredible, incredible purification, right? And then what you do is you get up, and maybe you just have time in the morning, you do 100. Some people go to a gym. Prostration's exercise, intense exercise. You get very strong, right? Do 100 prostrations, have a shower, have your breakfast, go to work. You do 100 a day, in 3 years you finish 100,000. So it's not like you have to go off on 3-month retreat. It's like you want to try to make the Dharma part of your life. How do I build it in as a working person? I have a family, how do you do it? I know people who get up a half an hour before their little kids. So they have to get to bed early. But it's possible. It's possible to practice. So break it down, small things. Take a month, learn something, learn one prayer, learn one mantra, then slowly build it up like that. Make sense? Okay, mandala offering. This is the bottom of page 7, and this is offering a universe. If you'd like, you can put your hands in this mudra, the mandala offering mudra. So the ring fingers back to back represent Mount Meru, the center of Buddhist cosmology. Okay, and then these 4 things here that my fingers are pulled apart are the 4 continents. So it's a little symbol of the universe, according to Buddhism. Okay. So you kind of want to visualize the most incredible world you can imagine. Glorious, stunning, okay, filled with beautiful sunsets and trees and gardens and flowers and jewels and whatever you want to imagine. It's your creation. And then in the Galupa tradition, because we're very heady, okay, you want to imagine on every atom of that mandala, of that world system, are infinite more mandalas. So just slowly, you build up, you try. Again, if you're not a good visualizer, that's okay. You can also imagine offering all the happiness you have, all the goodness in your life, all the love you've ever experienced, precious friends and family, all your good qualities, and the best thing to offer is your practice. Just imagine. Okay, and we'll read this prayer, the bottom of this page and the top of the next page. This ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon, I imagine this is a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Next page. The objects of my attachment, aversion and ignorance, friends, enemies, and strangers, my body, wealth, and enjoyments, without any sense of loss, I offer this collection. Please accept it with pleasure and bless me with freedom from the 3 poisons. And then asking the Guru to accept this wonderful offering, this wonderful mandala. Idam Guru Radna Mandala Ganiradayami. Then one way to practice is you collapse the mandala into you, okay? Like this. So I gain the realizations, okay? Symbol like that. There's other traditions you can collapse it out, but basically, I'd like to attain some realizations. So this is an excellent space right here. After I've set up a nice little foundation, now I want to incorporate a little analytical meditation on the lamrim. This is where you build it in. There's different places you can build it in, but I'm going to put it in inserted here, okay? So I just want to take a little bit more time. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on precious human rebirth, okay? The other thing about this rebirth, it's extremely rare. This was a harder thing for me to realize early in my Dharma career. I didn't really get these meditations. I understood I had a good scene, but I just thought, well, I'll come back and I'll have this scene again. We didn't really know how rare it is. So they have some analogies. Okay, so just sit comfortably. I'll just walk you through a couple of these, just to try to really get a sense that this is not an easy situation you got yourself into. Somebody did a lot of work for you, for your mind in the past, your consciousness. Someone invested a great, great effort to get you here. I mean, that's something alone we can feel good about. And we have every opportunity right now to practice. Every perfect opportunity is available to us. No more excuses. And this situation is extremely rare. So reflect now on the vast oceans of this planet. And just imagine sometimes if you ever go to Assateague Island or the beach and you look out and you can't see another shore. If you've ever been on a boat in the ocean, if you've ever flown either to Florida or across to Europe. And for hours, you look down as just ocean, if there's no clouds. That's just one sea of the world. Most of the planet is covered in water, in oceans and seas. Just imagine that vastness of the water. It's forever, in every direction. Imagine there's water. Imagine as if you're on a raft, small raft in this water, floating. And just get a sense of the vastness. And you notice nearby now, there is a lifesaver floating on the surface of the water near you, like a golden yolk. Imagine that they're just floating in this vastness of the seas of the world. So we know that in the ocean, various creatures live. Many, many sea animals are in the water. It's where most of the animals are on the planet. And there are sea turtles. Imagine there's a blind sea turtle in this ocean. Somewhere in the waters of the world is a blind sea turtle. And once every 100 years, this turtle surfaces to breathe air. Once every 100 years, it comes up to the surface. Just imagine the sea turtle. And it can't see, it's blind. And once every 100 years, it surfaces. What are the chances of this blind sea turtle getting its head through the golden yolk floating on the surface of the seas? That's a precious human rebirth. Those are the chances of your getting a precious human rebirth. Please reflect on that for a moment. Imagine all of the sands of the world, all the sandy beaches. So some people here, you might go to Assateague or Chincoteague Islands, Virginia, Maryland beaches, Delaware, North Carolina. We can just look at the whole East Coast. There's lots of sandy beaches on up and down the East Coast that we are well familiar with. Just a very small portion of sandy beaches. California has them. Tons of sand. How about the Sahara Desert? Other deserts of the world. Imagine being in the middle of these sandy expanses. Imagine the sand, it's spreading out, it's filling your entire view, and it goes on and on from there. As far as you can see is sand. Imagine all the tiny grains. Infinite tiny grains of sand. And now imagine a straight pin, tiny little straight pin, the kind that has that little cap on the top. Just an ordinary pin you might pin your clothing together with. Imagine the top of the pin has a sticky substance on it, and you turn it over and stick it in the sand, and you notice that some of the grains of sand stick to the top of the pin. Those grains of sand, that's a precious human rebirth. That's how rare this situation you have now is. To be a human who meets the Dharma and has a way to turn their mind from delusion. It's that rare. So just contemplate that for a moment. Unbelievably rare. So if at any time in this reflection you get this juicy sense, this is unbelievable, the rebirth I have now, I must do something with it now, because it may be amazing eons until I have it again, have this opportunity again. Then focus all of your concentration on that experience. And when it fades, you go back and contemplate again the sea turtle getting its head through the yolk, or the tiny grains of sand on the head of the pin. So if you'd like, make a resolution right now in this space to definitely dedicate yourself to getting your practice going or invigorated, to not waste so much time. So please relax and slowly open your eyes. I think anything that gets you to, that reminds you of emptiness, the nature of reality, and all these teachings are designed in our tradition to get you to realize emptiness. That's really the crux. So if you don't know what that word means now, what they're talking about, I mean, we know emptiness in our language, what it means, but we will do a meditation tomorrow on emptiness, and it's really anything that can lead your mind into having, first of all, some understanding of emptiness on an intellectual level, study more, try some meditations, and then really try to soak your mind in it more and more. That's really the key. But all this is designed to lead you to that. So you do need to build up the foundation of the other things. You know, if we don't realize the preciousness of the rebirth, we're not going to practice. We're going to waste our time. So everything is designed step by step in a certain order. So that's great. And does anyone have any questions, comments about so far what we're doing, the meditations? Anything like that that's coming up. And it's also perfectly fine if something's coming up in a meditation and you get emotional, you feel like crying, it's perfectly fine. Like sometimes it really triggers something. And it's great because this is all an aspect, all designed to get you more familiar with your mind. And we want to be gentle with the process. So when we notice negative things come up, it's okay. It's okay, you look at it, and sometimes joyous things come up. Sometimes sad things come up. And we work with it all to eventually counter all the negative tendencies and enhance the positive qualities. Yes?
Is it possible to practice meditation when you're driving long distance?
Okay, long distance driving and meditation. I wouldn't call it formal meditation because you need to concentrate on driving, but you could certainly practice mindfulness of driving. And certainly there's mantras I do in my car, and there's practices I've memorized that I say in the car out loud. I would use it for things like that. Some people listen to audio CDs in the car, better than having sometimes other stuff on the radio. So I would use it like that. I wouldn't say it's formal meditation, but you can do driving meditations. We did it a lot in California because everybody drives there. And so for instance, if you're driving and someone cuts in front of you, I watch my mind. I watch the mind of irritation for a minute. You know, and what's under irritation is fear. Okay, because I'm afraid I was going to have an accident. Somebody cuts in, you know. And what's under fear is loss of control. You know, what's under really that is that I'm going to die one day, and I don't know when it's going to happen. I'm not going to be in control. So you can kind of see the trajectory of what makes you irritated. Right? And then so I look at that and it diffuses, starts diffusing. And then another part is, you know, did you ever get in the wrong lane and you couldn't get over and you just suddenly jumped in front of somebody? It happens. So why is this person any different than me? Don't they want to be happy and not suffer just like me? Don't they have Buddha nature just like me? What if it was one of my friends? And they turned around and I saw it was a friend? I'm happy to let them in. So why not the stranger? Are we judging people based on the type of car they're trying to butt in with? Right? The Ferrari, I'm not letting them in. Right? But the old beat up VW bus, you know, sure. Or whatever your trip is, right? So these are ways I know people that say, he got into my lane. Territorialness. Did you build the road? Is your name etched in the road? It's your road? Yeah, we pay for the roads through tax dollars, but come on. Right? So these are little ways you can, work with those kind of irritations. People that get impatient in traffic. You have a lot of traffic here. It's normal for metropolitan areas. And so what's that about, that you get upset? Does anybody here get upset in traffic? Right? So you can ask yourself, what is that about for you? What's the point of getting upset in traffic? It's a given, traffic. So why irritate your mind? You can do mantras in the traffic. What if you practice loving kindness in traffic? Okay? I've got 4 little things I say sometimes. I'm in traffic. May you be happy. So I send out these wishes to everybody. I got all these people there stuck in their cars. May you be healthy. May you be free from suffering. May loving kindness manifest throughout your life. So you notice irritation? May you be happy. Sometimes you need to say it to yourself in traffic. It's okay. So a few suggestions of... Which reminds me, can I just ask a question myself as a practical thing? Sorry, I haven't found the answer, but I'm driving back and forth to the city sometimes. So can you tell me, okay, the express lane of Easy Pass, is it a toll road, seriously? Do I need to take my Easy Pass out and make sure it's being read?
Yes.
At certain intervals? Okay.
Yes.
The right lane, not at all, right?
If you're on the Easy Pass lane, you need to have the Easy Pass
accessible.
Right.
And keep in mind that Easy Pass is not the same old Easy Pass, it's the new one, the Express Easy Pass. So it's not the same unit that you used to have maybe 2 years ago.
So it's not going to read my
No.
Easy Pass. And then what will they do? Send a...
Yeah, so I ran into the same situation the day before yesterday, and I'm still waiting for a letter in my mail.
Okay, so they send a letter for you to pay whatever fee it was.
Yeah, they send a bill to you.
Okay, so that's okay. If they send me a bill, that's fine. Then I'll just pay the bill.
It doesn't read the old one?
No. So the old Easy Pass doesn't work for the new 495 kilometers, or the Maryland told me. It's called Express Easy Pass.
Well, that is really useful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have a Pennsylvania Easy Pass, but usually it operates up and down the East Coast except Florida.
But it still works for all the toll booths, it's just for those toll lanes.
Express lanes, I didn't know. So hopefully they'll just send me a bill and it's no big deal, right? You just
I'm in the same boat, so yeah.
Okay. They might see I have Easy Pass in Pennsylvania, I'm out of state, so I didn't know what I was doing. So hopefully they'll just, okay, I just didn't know because I was like, there's no one in this lane, why don't I go there? That works. It was backed up 5 miles yesterday. So I'm like looking at everybody, why are they sitting there? Because they don't have Express Easy Pass. Okay, now I know. Thank you, I wanted to know.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I'm not that lucky, I have a Virginia license plate.
Right. Well, I'm sure I'll get a bill. That's fine. As long as they don't have some major assessment, we're happy to pay whatever the toll was. Okay. Other questions, comments?
Amy, coming back to that car thingy, so in recent past, I've been able to analyze a lot of things, like experience, a whole sort of realization in the car itself. And so, I don't know what it is. I'm not a good meditator, so to speak. But I've been thinking very much analytically about a lot of stuff that I read. And I have moments where actually there's a recognition of something like I got into it, sort of thing. That all happens in the car. I'm
Well, that's
driving.
good.
I'm
Yeah.
driving.
That's good. I mean, you can be in the shower. I don't know if any of you, I have insights in the shower. I'm not any great meditator or have any great insights, but you don't know when they come in different things based on your mind being open and doing some regular practice. One of the worst toilets I've ever been in India, I had, I don't know, you go into when you're least expecting, and suddenly it was like something, so great, that's great. We have a lot of little insights and realizations all the time. I think it's realistic. Americans, I know we're not all American here, but Americans, we want things very easy, and we wanted our enlightenment 2 weeks ago wrapped up in a nice gold box, and And we feel like realizations have to come in huge things. You know, I saw a picture of the Dalai Lama, and I had tears pouring down my face, and light was radiating around. You know, it's not really like that. But you have little insights, a lot, little realizations of things. And when you know, so when you're here and you have little ones, eventually, enough steps you're here. So for instance, have any of you lost your mother or father? Died, right? Okay. So once that happens to you, if somebody says, my father died, and you lost your father, you know what that's like now. That's an insight. You have a realization of what it's like to lose your father. See what I mean? So we have lots of little insights. So I think it's great. The main thing is not to get attached to them. Just keep making progress. Because we get attached, and then that's another obstacle. And you keep trying to get that experience back again. So just build on it. And if it gets you closer to a direct perception of emptiness, fantastic.
Well, I've cried too, thinking about Dalai Lama, His Holiness.
Yeah, a lot of people do. I mean, he's an amazing being. When he cries, it's really... I've been at teachings, you know, Laura's probably been in teachings, and sometimes His Holiness cries, and it's kind of shatters the earth. I mean, it's like the King of Kindness crying, and he cries for different reasons. He manifests wrath sometimes, and I mean, I was in, maybe you were in this teaching years ago in UCLA. His Holiness was in this sports arena teaching, and they took questions on pieces of paper at each session. So Jimbo, I think, was translating as translator, and the question was, what's the easiest way to get enlightened? Do you remember this? And, you know, American audience for the most part, and His Holiness started crying. And everybody got really silent. It was like, some people start, you know, it's very hard to see him cry. And I like that he can just cry. He's a man who just cries, and he takes out his handkerchief and wipes his eyes, sometimes right after there's a big nose blow, and he makes a joke, and he moves on, you know, and he has this emotion that he'll express. And then he got a little wrathful, and he said, you Americans, you always want it so easy. It was a real lesson for me. I was really like, ooh, you know, like, that's how I wanted it, you know, that's how I always want it. So yeah, sometimes we get emotional with images of something with the teacher. It's perfectly normal. I think it's good sometimes a little thing breaks open. I don't repress that. I don't kind of hold it down. Other questions?
I didn't understand because you talked about the sand.
The sand, yep.
I mean, what's the pin, the sand? What was it about?
Okay, so that's about, you know, you flip that, you got this little pin, you know, that you hold closed together, right? And the top has a flat thing, a straight pin. Is everybody familiar with a straight pin, what I meant? I know it's a little hard word from different cultures. If it's a little sticky on the top, I was trying to get you to get that sense of the sand around the planet. A lot of sand, right? Vast, vast, vast. And I take my little pin and I turn it upside down. How much sticks to the sticky top? That's a precious human rebirth. That's it. Just those few granules, and you got like that. So you're trying to get that sense of how rare it is. How rare it is. Anybody get a feeling of that? Right? The vastness of the water. Vastness of the water. I never had much appreciation for that meditation for years. I don't think I wasn't doing it right. But then the vastness of the water, I was in a retreat for a while working with that, and you see it's pretty rare, you know. That sea turtle, blind, trying to get its head through, very rare that we got here. So it's quite extraordinary. One time, this is kind of a funny story, I teach in Mexico sometimes, so they had me at this Mediterranean Sea area, Caribbean Sea. There's a center there, in this little island, and so they had me there, and then they wanted to take me out on dive boat, and you know, they live by the sea, and I like the water, and one day I said, okay, a bunch of people, we'll go out, and I couldn't dive, they were diving, and I had to snorkel, because they didn't have a diving license, so I was on the top, I had my snorkel and my flippers, and I'm off there on the surface of the water, and in order to be out in the ocean, on the surface of the water, you need to be attached to a lifesaver, so the boats don't run you over. Okay, so they had this, I think it was on my ankle, the lifesaver, and it's an orange float. And I could snorkel and it would be there, so people would see there's a person, and so I'm snorkeling away, and dang if a sea turtle didn't come. Like, I mean, I was like, and all of a sudden, like, there's a sea turtle it wasn't blind, didn't look blind, but kind of right in front of me. doing its thing, and I was just immediately I was like, oh, look at this, underwater meditation. But there it was, and didn't get its head through the yoke, of course, right? But it really, these little reminders all day long. It's nice to have reminders of Dharma, that your mind thinks about Dharma, is triggered to think about Dharma than ordinary stuff that we normally think about, and it just comes from imprints of practice, like continually. So I love that one. That was a great one. So can you get a little sense of how to do analytical meditation for those of you not familiar? How you're coming in from different angles with things again and again and again, slowly. A little bit of sense of that? And you see, is it penetrating a little bit, going a little deeper? Now we're doing short periods, but for some of you it might be long. So I'm trying to make a balance that, and it's things start sinking. Anybody get some kind of little feeling and then you move your concentration there a little bit? A little bit? It comes slowly, slowly. You have to get used to, we're not used to doing this so much, so. And if it's possible to create a practice that has a little bit of this built in, even if you just have 10 minutes, morning and evening, a little lamrim stuff, maybe you can extend it to 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. It starts to shift stuff. And then if you get a chance to do retreat, and maybe you start with a group on a weekend like this is perfect, then maybe a week, and you can try, like I know Vajrapani Institute has, they'll have it at Milarepa Center in Vermont, so East Coast, but Vajrapani does where they do a lamrim retreat. Copan, Vermont is the one, I think this summer with the Geshe from Florida, is going to lead a lamrim retreat. So lead, meditations like this for a week with a group. Guided sessions, you could try that. You could then, maybe if you really are ambitious, go to the Copan November course. It's a month-long course. Like that, sometimes I lead the meditations for that, and there's like 300 people. And you go through different sessions for a month, much more intensified. So there's different levels of things you can try like that. It's really, really helpful. We're going to break for lunch at 12:30. So what I'd like to do, and this is what Lama Zob Rinpoche does, and it's okay, is we often set up a session, and you might have an hour meditation session. It might be 2 hours. Could be longer if you're more experienced. Some people might just have shorter sessions. Like I'll do 20 minutes. I'll stand up and stretch a little bit. I'll do another 20 minutes. 5-minute break, another 20 minutes, and there's an hour where I've got little things, little concentration going because I can't keep, my mind's distracted, so I wanted to break it up. The 20 minutes could engage with some preliminary prayers, a little bit of concentration on the breath. Always your motivation starts it off, then a little analytical meditation, maybe a visualization of Tara, and that's all. But the other thing is we didn't finish the session. We took a break, no problem. With Rinpoche, sometimes you have a whole day practice, and in the middle you stop, you dedicate, and you go out to lunch, come back, and you continue. And so what we did is we got to the lamrim, and now we're going to continue on and then finish and do dedication. So it's perfectly fine to just stop at a moment, at a natural break. I didn't dedicate the merit because we were kind of in the middle of the session. We'll dedicate before lunch, and then you can continue on like that, and then at the end of that session you dedicate the merit. Again, you always have to have motivation in the beginning, dedication in the end, some of the most important things. So actually you don't need the book right now. I'm gonna guide you through a visualization. So finding that comfortable posture. You can always quickly call up and reestablish your motivation. So once again, we're here to benefit all others. The best way for us to do that is to become like Tara, to become enlightened. And let's recollect Tara over the crown of our heads again, this divine emerald green goddess. as if she's really there. And again, she has the tiny tom on the moon disk at her heart, surrounded by her mantra. She also has Om, Ah, and Hung at her forehead, throat, and heart. And just think that please bless me to purify all obscurations, so all non-virtues of my body, so it will become one in essence with Guru Tara's holy Vajra body. So imagine white light now emanates from the Om at Tara's brow, again curves in an arc to our brow and purifies all negativities, all obscurations that you've done with your body. And just imagine my body is purified completely of all these obscurations. Again, becomes one in essence with Aryatara. Just feel the blessings of her holy mind, her holy body. Okay, imagine, just think, please bless me to purify obscurations of my speech, so that I can receive the blessings of Aryatara's precious speech. And imagine that red light now emanates from the Ah at her throat and arcs around to our throat. And imagine these red light rays absorb into our throat. And think my speech is purified completely of all obscurations. And feel all those blessings of Aryatara's holy speech. Blue light rays and nectars come from the Hung at Aryatara's heart, arc around to our hearts, penetrating there. Just think, please bless me to purify all obscurations of my mind. Imagine these blue light rays entering our heart. And feel my mind is purified of all obscurations, and feel all the blessings of Aryatara's holy mind. And now imagine the white, red, and blue nectar and light rays from her body, speech, and mind come all together now into our forehead, throat, and heart, purifying all subtle obscurations to omniscience. And any understanding you have about emptiness, reflect on it here. So that my wrong conception that I and all other phenomena are self-existent, together with my dualistic mind and its views, disappear, becoming completely empty, so not even a trace of them remain. So from this space, as much as you can remember emptiness, imagine light is radiating once again from Tara's holy heart. Green light rays penetrating all 10 directions. And imagine it purifying all living beings. You can imagine them all becoming Tara, all free from their suffering. Imagine the light rays again going out to the 10 directions, making offerings to all the holy beings, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, whether we see them or not. And the enlightened beings are extremely pleased and shower down all the qualities of their enlightened minds, all back into Tara's heart, fully energizing her again. So this is infinite wisdom of the omniscient mind, infinite power of skillful means, infinite compassion. And as we recite the mantra now, imagine that this light and nectar begins to descend and pour forth from her heart like a cascading, like a radiant waterfall down through the crown of our heads. And if you'd like, you can also visualize the light rays are emanating forth from her, spreading out over all the beings on the planet, blessing them, purifying them, alleviating their suffering. At the bottom, page 9, is her mantra. So as much as you can, if you don't know the mantra, feel free to look there. If you know it, try to keep it going with the visualization as best as you can. You can either alternate between visualizations, the light coming down to you, purifying you of all obscurations, whatever it is you specifically need, or the light and nectar rays going out to relieve the suffering of all the beings on this planet and all world systems. So we'll chant some together and then we will do some on our own. Om Dare Du Dare Du Re So. 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 When you recite mantras in a group retreat, you do need to articulate air, particularly in this case, in this mantra. So air leaves your mouth, but not loud enough to disturb the person next to you. And you can go at any pace that you like. Om Dare. So just feel that you have lessened whatever obscurations may be arising in your life, obscurations to practice, etc., anything. Tara is very pleased with our practice. And imagine her over our crown now dissolve slowly. And I'll say a replica of her dissolves slowly from the edges of the visualization into the center, along with her mantra garland, seed syllable, and Om Ahom. This replica dissolves into a radiant emerald drop. The drop comes to our crown, slowly melting into us. And just feel all the blessings of Aryatara's holy body, speech, and mind. Please turn in the book to page 10, the dedication. This is a short dedication. Let's read together. May I quickly become Guru Aryatara, Padma Droma, and lead each and every sentient being into her enlightened state because of these merits. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. When we come back, we'll discuss the explanation of the mantra, and we'll do some Tara praises, because sometimes we're tired after lunch, so again, your Dharma maturity is after lunch. In a retreat, you wouldn't have a session right after lunch because you need to digest food. And sometimes if you're on retreat, you only eat breakfast and lunch, so lunch is the big meal. So you might do reading, you could do journaling, you can have a walk. So this way, with our wisdom, we're going to do some Tara praises. It's a little lively, and we'll talk about the mantra, and then we'll go back into some more meditation, like that. And then at the end of the day, we'll have a longer dedication. Okay? So what I'd like to do is just take a moment to offer our lunch, even though we don't have the lunch in front of us, to get you used to page 207 in the Gold Prayer Book, Food Offering Prayers. Page 207. And again, we bless the food with the 3 syllables, Om Ahom. You can visualize from every image in this room, white, red, and blue nectar's coming. It's dissolving into whatever we're going to eat for lunch. Om Ahom, Om Ahom, Om Ahom. When it says Guru here, the Guru is Buddha, the Guru is Dharma. This is again that wisdom that pervades everything, from which everything comes. Dharmakaya, truth body of the Buddha. Okay? To explain that Sanskrit word Guru, spiritual guide, spiritual teacher. Let's chant this in the Tibetan. Lama Sangye Lama Chödejin Lama Gedunde Gongi Jebo Lama Pe Lama Namla So may we also eat food that will nourish our bodies so we can continue this practice, helping us to get enlightened, to be of benefit to all others. So really for the benefit of all other beings, we're going to practice the yoga of eating lunch. So have a nice lunch. How was your lunch?
Very nice.
Good, good. How's your mind? Right? Noticing some things in your mind today, just from a little bit of meditation, and any interesting stuff floating around?
No, I have a question.
Please, yes.
I know somebody, they usually like 1 day, whole day, or 2, 3 days, no talking. Well, what's the purpose for the meditation?
No talking, silence. Some people keep silence in retreats or meditation, and you can check yourself, but I do find if you're in silence, it doesn't dilute, the meditations don't get diluted by yakety, 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 yak. Again, check yourself. If you keep your speech a little bit directed towards something more positive or related to the teachings or meditation, great, but often we go down other streets, so. And for myself, sometimes I keep silence for quite a long time in retreat, and I just find I'm able to just stay with whatever's coming up, and then the next meditation I can kind of build on that. And so Tibetans themselves, they're not a real silent culture. It's not tend to be their style. It's a real Western style to keep silence. However, it depends on the retreat. So I think the Burmese tradition, and then the Thai forest tradition that kind of came from that, they often will do stricter retreats with silence, but not necessarily. And Tibetans, I visited some meditators in Dharamsala, and they're in these little clay or stone hovels, and there's a bunch of them kind of clumped together above the town, near one of our retreat centers there. And if you go after lunch, I tend to go after lunch, and I would bring offerings like fruit or maybe a money offering in an envelope. And then after lunch, some of them, and if they want to interact, they'll be outside in their little courtyard, and then I just kind of hold up some fruit, and then they'll say, yeah, you can come, and they'll talk to you sometimes. So it depends what kind of retreat they're doing. Mostly, it's okay to try to get your life into a simplicity mode and just have less, because there's less fetters on the mind. And you can actually create a life with a yogini mind. And you can even be a working person a little bit with that mind. It doesn't have to be that separate from you. It's really that attitude that you know, so when you go in the supermarket, for instance, how does a Bodhisattva warrior go into the supermarket? You know what I mean? Like, why don't you try the next time as an exercise? The next time you go to the supermarket, you all go to supermarkets, right, at some point? Once in a while. Why don't you go in as a Bodhisattva warrior? Okay, again, the warriors don't go to war with other people, they go to war with their delusions, right? And they're very focused, Bodhisattva warriors, on helping others. So what would you do in the supermarket as a Bodhisattva warrior? I'm just curious.
Watch your mind.
Watch your mind, yeah. And Bodhisattva warriors are allowed to take their lists into the soup. You can have your list. Okay, but now I'm entering the supermarket, so I'm going to reestablish my motivation for shopping. Okay? I'm going to I get out of my car. Oh, I need to shop. I need food for my family or myself so I can stay healthy. I need to eat to live. And I hope I can direct my life into getting enlightened quickly so I can benefit others. So really, for the purpose of benefiting others, I'm going to practice the yoga of supermarket shopping. Right? Seriously, why not? You know, Dharma isn't because you come into a center and now you're going to be holy. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. That's not my way to practice Dharma. And then you go and you get behind the wheel of your car and you're a jerk. You miss the boat. So you go in with your list. This is just practical, right? And you're allowed to do your shopping. You got a little bit of a focus. A part of your mind is you're just checking out, looking around. People in supermarkets need help. Sometimes they need help. Sometimes you got a mother with a kid in the carriage and the other one the toddler's running. So you can do a little blocking. You know. Sometimes somebody's looking for something. Do you know where the pickled beets are? You know, people are like, who eats pickled beets? Okay? But literally one time at dinner time, I was in the supermarket near my parents' house, near my dad's house. And nobody's in the supermarket at 5:30 at night, rarely. 6 o'clock, you know, it's when people are eating. And I'm in an aisle of, I don't know what, canned something. But I felt, and you can feel this from people, down the aisle came a guy with like a 3-year-old kid in his carriage. And somehow I actually turned, it was a long aisle, but I felt stress moving down the aisle towards me. That was just my perception, I don't know how. But I just kind of looked, and my impression I got, the guy's looking for something and trying to quiet the kid down, and the impression I get is the wife had it for that day. Maybe there was a fight with, he comes home from work or whatever, and she sends him off with the kid, get out of here, and I'm making dinner, shut up, get out of here, and don't come back until you bring me pickled beets. Okay, this is what I interpret as this. I mean, I didn't know about the pickled beets at the time, but this is, he's coming down the aisle, all stressed, they had a fight, it's his fault, he's in the doghouse. Take the kid, I just want to see the backs of your heads, get out of here. Okay, you know those scenes? Here he is now, and I didn't get the feeling he was familiar with the supermarket. So he ends up with his back to me. He's scanning one aisle, I'm looking, I'm in the, I don't know, I was somewhere, canned vegetables, I think I'm looking. And finally, and I'm getting this sense that the guy needs help, and I kind of just turned, so he could, and then he said, can you help me? He was desperate. He's like, please, like, can you? And I said, oh, what, so people need help. And then he said, do you know where pickled beets are? Seriously said this thing. Pickled beets, I've never bought pickled beets before. So I thought canned vegetables is what came to my mind, but what happened is he was in front of the pickles. He got close. I thought it was pretty, he got in front of all pickles. And then I said, oh, pickled beets. And I said, I think it's canned vegetables. That's here. And then we both looked, and I said, oh yeah, here's pickled beets. And he nearly kissed me. He was so, he's like, thank you. And he says, my wife thanks you. And then he went off down the aisle. So people need some help. Sometimes if you're at the deli counter as a Bodhisattva warrior, somebody there might be in a hurry, and there's a queue, there's a line. So you could say, you know how you're sometimes, whose turn? You can go ahead. What's the big deal? Right? It doesn't take that long, really, for them to get their order, and, And then you're done. Let's say you finished your list. Okay, the other thing Bodhisattva warriors do, because of our planet and our problems on our planet, is Bodhisattva warriors bring in their used plastic bags to put vegetables and fruit in, instead of getting a new one. If you have a clean bag, you can reuse those, and they also bring shopping bags with them to the supermarket to reduce the amount of plastic and paper and things like that. Okay? Now you're finished. Your list is done. Now what do you do? What do you do at the supermarket when you're done shopping?
Pay.
You pay. Okay? So you want to get in, look for a cashier. What do? You look for the shortest line,
Yes.
right? Of course. Bodhisattva warriors, you can do that, no problem. Okay, now let's say somebody's in front of you. You can't get your stuff yet on the conveyor belt. You're waiting. Okay, what do Bodhisattva warriors do when they're waiting?
Grab the magazine.
Okay, no. Actually, sorry. Wrong answer. Okay, so Bodhisattva warriors, honestly, do not read the tabloids. So watch your mind that goes to the garbage. It's garbage in your mind. Protect your mind. Okay? Something else you can do while you're waiting there. There's a few things you could do. So really protect your mind, because that stuff, it's garbage in your mind. You don't need it in your mind. The other thing they do is if you go and then you start to see all the delectable candies, because you're trying to divert your attention, delectable candies, well, they're very skillful. They put those there because suddenly you need a Reese's bar. Do you really need it? 5 minutes ago, before you're in front of it, you didn't need it. So again, little strength of mind. Watching the mind of desire arise. 5 minutes ago, I didn't need the peanut M&Ms. Actually, I think I always need peanut M&Ms, but I don't. Okay, so please don't go out and buy me any peanut M&Ms. I don't need them. I'm totally addicted to them, and I can't control myself. So I watch the mind, and I go, I didn't even think about them 5 minutes ago, because I was in the pickled beets aisle, right? I didn't. So now, and they, they're in that wonderful yellow wrapper. It's just so, I don't need it. I don't need it. And if I just hold on for a couple minutes, I'm going to be putting my stuff on the conveyor belt. So I'll be busy with that. Okay, there's one other thing they can do. You can say mantras, standing in line, you're waiting. What else do they do? Think about the supermarket. Be skillful. What can you do there to help somebody else.
See if somebody can go ahead of you.
Yeah, look for the person with the one thing of mayonnaise. You know, look for the mother with the screaming child who's like dying to get out of the supermarket now, get the kid home, right? Now the mother might have a big shopping bag of stuff, but the guy with the carton of eggs, you gotta, I love when somebody lets me go. Why do I have to stand behind this thing? She's got tons of stuff she's gonna be until they, why don't you let them go in front of you? Bodhisattva warriors make eye contact with the cashier. How are you? Yeah? How are you doing? Oh, thanks very much. You know, they're kind, they're compassionate. And then you check out with the bags that you brought from your home. I don't know, that's such a thing for me. Because suburbia, where I'm living with my dad, and you know the way the baggers do it? They put 2 things in each bag because the plastic bags are cheap. For me, it's criminal. I'm like, I see somebody with like plastic bags, just heaped up new plastic bags. Right? Think about it. Okay, so and then off you go, out the store. See, so a little bit, and you can even leave the store and dedicate. Any merit I might have created here of just considering others for a moment. Maybe I didn't help anybody, but just a little bit having consideration for others. I'm going to dedicate it to my quick enlightenment to benefit others. So this is how you live your lives, you know, practically, to try to make imprints. I recommend Lama Zopa Rinpoche. There's a new book, I'm not sure if it's free, The Bodhisattva Attitude. The Bodhisattva Attitude. Please get that book. He has examples in there, I think further back in the book, of what you think when you sit down. What, you know, if you're going up a staircase, you can do it in an elevator. I'm leading all sentient beings to enlightenment. Right? I'm going down, I'm shutting the door to the lower realms for sentient beings. You know, you put your belt on every morning. I'm binding myself with the armor of patience. Or make your own ideas. Rinpoche has some in there, but create your own imprints. You know, I'm driving myself to enlightenment. You can drive and visualize a stupa on your right, because it's like going around a stupa when you take a walk. These are just ways you can create positive imprints, because when you're dying, what you want is what your mind's most familiar with to come up, and you'd rather have it most familiar with those kind of images. So just some suggestions. The Bodhisattva attitude. It makes you happy. And that's what we're really doing here, so we want to be happier. Sorry, my tirade. Okay, but that's really... Let me talk a little bit about the mantra. Om Tare, Tu Tare, Tu Re Soha. And this is nice, a little bit is included. This is a little bit explanation from Lama Zopa Rinpoche as well. Tara is technically the one who liberates us from our suffering and delusion and karma that create the suffering for us. She helps to prevent hindrances, and you can help to generate the steps on the path to enlightenment, realizations of that in your mind. So let me talk a little bit more about the mantra. The mantra starts with Om, and it ends with Soha, also looks like Svaha. Okay, the Tibetans don't have a V pronunciation, so often it's Soha. If you come to mantras and you're having trouble with the pronunciation, you do the best you can do, unless you can get a transmission of the mantra that you can record or hear from a teacher and you can recite it. Sometimes they'll give it to you 3 times, you repeat after them, the way I kind of started in the beginning or last night. So it's usually try to repeat it the way they would, you know, hoping they're reciting it in the right way. But you don't get so caught up. You do need to say it accurately, but sometimes so if you're saying Soha and it's Svaha and somebody's saying Svaha, it's not a big difference. It's still a proper pronunciation. We asked Rinpoche that once with certain mantras of the Buddha of compassion. You know, there's Satvaya versus Satoya. It's both okay. It's mainly your faith in it, as long as you're pronouncing it one of those ways. It ends with Soha. Okay. Om is normally at the beginning of most mantras. Soha often at the end of mantras. Sometimes it's home at the end, but they're similar. Okay? And this contains, in a sense, most of the mantras contain a path of method and wisdom, a path of skillful means and the right view. And it's just different layers of that. So in a sense, the Buddha, the mantra of the Buddha of compassion, Om Mani Padme Hum, we're very familiar with that one. It's easy, it's short. Om Mani Padme Hum. So that starts with an Om, ends with a Hum. In essence, on one level, it's the all of the universe is like a jewel in the lotus of my heart. You could say, if you really, it's not the literal translation, but Mani is jewel. Padme, or Peme, the way the Tibetans say it, is lotus. And then on esoteric levels, on tantric levels, it means something else. Okay? But sometimes it's really synthesized as the path of method and wisdom. All of it's contained in each of the mantras. Okay? So here it says Om signifies Tara's holy body, speech, and mind. And the middle, Tare tu Tare Ture, contains the essence of the Four Noble Truths. That's the first teaching the Buddha ever gave. There is suffering, there's a cause to the suffering, there's an end of the suffering, and there's a path to the end of the suffering. Four Noble Truths. Okay? So Tare, so it's Om Tare, signifies release from samsara, an end of the suffering, okay? And she's the female one who releases. That's what she liberates us from. Samsaric cycling. Samsara is a Sanskrit word. To turn. Okay? So this kind of shows her function, it says. Tutare is dispelling fears. The female one who cuts off or dispels, it says directly in here, the 8 fears or dangers, stopping each inner fear, which is related to an outer danger. Some of these came from ancient days. Okay? So in ancient days, the danger of the elephant is the outer. They had elephants in India, they still do, right? Representation of ignorance. So you're subduing, you're freeing yourself from basic confusion. Okay? Now you might say, well, we don't have elephants on our thing, but you can understand the danger of some large animal attacking you. That can happen in this country. Danger of fire. We have this in our country. People burning in fires, fire burning down your house, wildfires in California and other places like that. That represents hatred. That subdues inner hatred. Danger of water. Floods, drowning. Okay, subdues attachment. Okay, so we've got ignorance, hatred, attachment. What are those called?
3 poisons.
3 poisons, thank you. 3 poisons. Ignorance or confusion, hatred or anger, and attachment and desire. If some of you are familiar with a famous Thangka painting called The Wheel of Life, The Wheel of Life, it is a round circle, and in it there's different symbolisms and pictures of different things. It's held by a big demon. You see the top head with fangs and claws and the bottom feet, holding this wheel. That's actually Yama, the Lord of Death. Everything exists in death and impermanence. Everything's changing. So he's a reminder, you're going to die one day, for sure. Okay? Then you got different cycles of the 3 upper realms, 3 lower realms of existence, and something called the 12 links of dependent origination around the outside ring. But the very center, there's a circle that contains 3 animals. There is a pig, a rooster, and a snake. The pig represents ignorance or confusion. Fundamentally, not having a direct perception of the nature of reality, the pig. And some more, they say, accurate depictions are out of the pig's mouth comes the snake and the rooster. So the pig's like this. Okay? But often what you see is they're chasing each other's tails. So you see the pig hanging onto one and the rooster hanging. So the rooster represents attachment, desire, and the snake is anger and hatred. 3 poisons. The 4th fear, danger of the lion, we do have this in parts of mountain lions, in parts of California and other places I've been, Arizona, is pride, counters inner pride. That's a fear of having that delusion arise, another of the 6 root delusions, okay? Danger of the snake, which we have in this country, counters to counter the danger of the snake and that fear of snakes, inner jealousy. Danger of the thief, which we have in this country, what dispels that? What cuts that off? It also cuts off wrong views, holding wrong views. Danger of a preta realm, a hungry ghost, a grasping spirit realm, is about doubt, countering inner doubt. And the danger of chains, I would think bondage and things like that, is your greedy attitude, miserliness. So Tutare addresses those. And it also goes on to say, Tara saves from all these 8 dangers of the disturbed and unsubdued mind and its karmic actions. She's the female who releases from the 8 fears. Release shows the true path of cessation. That is the 4th noble truth, the path of cessation. Okay? The true path of Theravada and Mahayana Buddhism. So Tara releases us from the cause of suffering, which is the 2nd noble truth, and the 8 fears and things like that. Okay. Om Tare Tutare Ture. Ture signifies releasing from disease. She not only releases us from physical diseases that most of us recognize, but also benefits by releasing sentient beings from mental diseases. Okay? And in addition, they technically say there's 84,000 different diseases. Now, we're not aware of all that, but there sure seem to be a lot of disease on the planet, okay, that we are aware of. It says 84,000 diseases of the disturbed and unsubdued mind and its karmic actions. So, so this goes on about Tara shows the true path, liberates us, and all sentient beings from the fears of samsara. Okay. She's a special deity, a manifestation of all the Buddha's holy actions of body, speech, and mind. She's very energetic. It's an energetic manifestation, particularly the main green Tara form. Thus, Tara is the mother from whom all the Buddhas of the 3 times have been born and from whom we receive enlightenment, because it's kind of from all the Buddhas have been born, which is why she's called the mother, why some of the female deities are called the mother, like that. It says she's the essence of the holy minds of all the Buddhas, and the holy mind, which technically is the absolute guru, Dharmakaya, is based on that. We refer to her as Mother Tara. So even though we don't recognize her in female aspect at times, the base upon which we label her is Dharmakaya, the truth body of the Buddha, the holy mind of all the Buddhas, and that's what we call the absolute guru. Okay, so our actual guru or teacher is just an external manifestation, really, of that. And once you get into higher level practices, you can think about that in relation to everything you're doing in life. Everything is a manifestation, emanation of guru, like that. And the more you live in that space, most beneficial for your mind. Most beneficial for your mind. The absolute guru manifests in different forms and reveals different methods according to the level of one's own mind, according to the level of the practitioner. Okay, so there's a relative guru, which is our external, like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, like that, arising from the absolute guru, from Dharmakaya. So that just gives you a little sense of, a little notion of the meaning of the, of the mantra. Okay, what I'd like to do is to recite some Tara praises. I really recommend that centers do these praises as a group, as a center. It's a wonderful thing to do at the beginning of a meeting. It clears obstacles. So we used to do them regularly at Milarepa Center and some other centers I was involved in, and it just really seems, you want to bring her energy here. Let's say we're having a meeting. We would like some clarity, some help, some direction. she's your girl. And I think this kind of helps. It can be like a great motivation. I do them every day anyway, and sometimes I have a list of things that I'm actually trying to direct this energy to, of really concrete things that I hope to have happen, or things with centers, my own practice, retreats of friends I know, and things like that. So we're going to turn to page 17. Make sure I have the right. Okay. Now this is a little bit of, I'm going to do this at a pace, okay, because it's energetic. Okay, and since we had lunch and everybody's a little sleepy, and we're going to wake up. She's going to wake us up, right? And we're going to talk to all the different Taras in this beautiful tanka. And so let's just read together. What we first want to do is ask her to come here. I mean, she's here, but we kind of want to make a little stronger connection and say we'd like to do this kind of this song to you, these praises. So could you please be with us here in this space? So we can read the invocation, page 17, and the prostration. From your sublime abode at the Potala, O Tara born from the green letter Tam, your crown adorned with Amitabha, action mother of the Buddhas of the 3 times, Tara, please come with your attendants. The gods and demigods bow to your lotus feet, O Tara. You who rescue all who are destitute, to you, Mother Tara, I pay homage. So see if you can keep up. Oh my, not like that. Oh my, prostrate to the noble transcendent liberator. Homage, Tara, swift, heroic, eyes like lightning, instantaneous, from opening stamens of the Lord of 3 worlds, dearborn lotus. Homage, she whose face combines 100 autumn moons at fullest, blazing with light rays resplendent as 1,000 star collection. Homage, golden blue, one lotus, water-born and hand adorned, giving effort, calm austerities, patience, meditation, her sphere. Homage, crown of Katagatas, actions triumph without limit, relied on by conquerors' children, having reached every perfection. Homage, filling with tutare, home desire, direction, and space, trampling with her feet the 7 worlds, able to draw forth all beings. Homage, worshipped by the All-Lord, Chakra, Agni, Brahma, Maru, honored by the host of spirits, corpse raisers, Gandharvas, Yakshas. Homage with her trait and paid sounds, destroying foes' magic diagrams, hot feet pressing left out right in, blazing in a raging fire blaze. Homage to her very dreadful, destroyer of Mara's champions. She with frowning lotus visage, who is slayer of all enemies. Homage at the heart, her fingers adorn her with 3 jewel mudra. Light ray masses all excited, all directions wheels adorn her. Crown emitting garlands of light, mirthful laughing with tutare, subjugating Mara's devas. Homage she able to summon all her guardians assembly, shaking, frowning with her home sign, saving from every misfortune. Homage crown adorned with crescent, moonal ornaments most shining. Amitabha in her hair knot, sending out much light eternal. Homage she mid wreath ablaze like eon-ending fire abiding. Righteous love and joy surrounds you, troops of enemies destroying. Homage she who strikes the ground with her palm and with her foot beats, scaling with the letter Hong, the 7 levels she does conquer. Homage happy, virtuous, peaceful, she whose field is peace nirvana. She endowed with Om and Soa, a great evil. Homage she with joy surrounded, tearing foes' bodies asunder. Breathes with Hong and knowledge mantra, arrangement of the 10 letters. Homage to her with seed letter, of the shape of syllable. By foot stamping shakes the 3 worlds, Meru, Mandayar, and Bindi. Homage holding in her hand the dear Hermit movement, Teva leg form, with twice spoken Tara and Pig, totally dispelling poison. Homage she whom gods and their kings and their kinnaras do honor. armored in all joyful splendor. She dispels bad dreams and conflicts. Homage shews to eyes bright with radiance of sun and full moon. With twice Tara and Tutare, she dispels severe contagion. Homage full of liberating. Powered by the set of three natures, destroys hosts of spirits, yakshas, and raise corpses supreme ture. These praises with the root mantras and prostrations thus are 21. So you can get into this and kind of recite, a few times together. And what happens is if you do it regularly together, 3 times, let's say, after a while, you start to memorize. So we would have staff meetings at a center, and we would do this 3 times before the staff meeting or part of a morning practice together. Or sometime you come together as a center, and you could do it at the beginning of a teaching. And then you start to memorize it. Anything you say out loud, you memorize. If you don't say it out loud, you won't memorize. Okay? And I was laughing about hair-marked moon. Okay? Hair-marked moon, a rabbit. Tibetans and Sherpas, we say man on the moon. In our cultures, we have man on the moon. So, where are you from?
Colombia.
And what do you say about, who do you see on the moon in your culture? Like when you're kids and you're like, people look and see a face on the moon, so our culture we say the man on the moon. You've heard of that expression. You don't, in Colombia?
No.
Nothing much.
Wolf.
A wolf on the moon? Where are you from?
Mongolia.
Mongolia? You're from Mongolia?
Yeah.
Sister! I have some Mongolian blood in my family. Very nice. Where from?
UB.
UB, okay. So you've got a wolf on the moon. Okay, see, it's different.
I think it's wolf.
Different cultures, okay. Possibly?
Rabbit.
Rabbit, okay. Rabbit. Asians, Mongolians are kind of Asians as well. But I know my Sherpa friends, my Sherpa friends, Tibetan friends, here, Taiwan you're from, okay? They have a rabbit on the moon. So this is hair-marked moon. That's why it says hair-marked moon. But there was one that said deer-marked moon. So some people say have a deer on the moon. Like that. I'll never forget at Laudo some years ago. Occasionally people would bring up magazines. So at least the few people living there would just look at the pictures. Some of them don't know how to read English. Rinpoche's sister doesn't read English, but she would look at. And then a dear friend of mine, Mary Colony, has been up there a lot. She explained the first man walked on the moon, I believe it was 1969, is that right? Roughly? Okay. So they're quite outside of the news in Laudo. There's not a lot of, it doesn't really change their lives much, the news and beyond. So they would, she was not aware, Rinpoche's sister, in the late 80s, the mid to late 80s, that anyone had ever walked on the moon. She had never. So at one point, Mary was showing her an article, and she said, and when the man walked on the moon, and it blew her mind. She was like, what? She was like, Dawa? Man there? Like she couldn't believe. Mary said, no, somebody's walked on the moon. She, had no recollection, no idea, never had any information about it. Okay? So, so this is a nice thing that Tara praises, and we'll also do tomorrow, and just to introduce you to that. Thank you. So now we're going to go back to our lamrim meditation. And the reason I said before we went to lunch was we absorbed a replica of Tara at the end of the first meditation. So we visualized Tara, and depending what kind of retreat you do, you don't have to necessarily, if you're mainly doing a lamrim retreat, you don't have to bring up the image of Tara each sadhana if you'd like. If you're doing a deity retreat, you may have passages you need to bring up the deity practice several times a day. The first session of the day, you usually do a longer deity practice. Some of them are quite lengthy. And then other subsequent sessions, you can do a little shorter, bringing Tara to mind. So I want you to just recall Tara again over your crown, because we left her there. So that way you could take her to lunch. Okay? And what's nice to get used to again is, you always have a Buddha over your crown. You just don't see it. We're not pure enough to experience that. But if you do some visualizations and do some practices you set up in the morning, you leave them out there, and they're either over your crown, or you can have, for instance, if you want to focus on this picture here, this square, there's a whole wall of them, but the last one is what's called the Lama Chopa Merit Field. And all of these pictures along this particular wall is the life story of Lama Tsongkhapa. Lama Tsongkhapa. He's our patron saint. He lived from 1347 to 1419. He founded Ganden Monastery and the Gelugpa tradition of Buddhism. Ganden Monastery is just outside of Lhasa. You can go and visit it. The Chinese destroyed it in 1959, and they've since rebuilt most of it. When I was last year, they'd rebuilt a third of it. And his there's a stupa there. This is a stupa, right? It's a shrine, and they're different sizes. This is a smaller one. There's really there's a smaller one over there. Okay, these are smaller stupas, like that. Sometimes you can have a big one, and there's one outside of Kathmandu that's the size of a city block, roughly. So some of them are grand and huge, and the story was Lama Tsongkhapa was from eastern Tibet, Amdo region, eastern Tibet. When the Chinese invaded in the 50s, they were destroying a lot of the 6,000 monasteries, nunneries, and the people of Amdo, they were destroying them on foot. So the people of Amdo decided at least we'll protect Ganden, one of the major monasteries in Tibet. So they decided to surround it on the ground, thinking they'd at least try to save Ganden, so the Chinese bombed it from the sky, destroyed it. Lama Tsongkhapa had never been cremated at the time when he died. He was in a glass case. Somehow the body was preserved, and it was wrapped, and the nails and the hair kept growing. So the Dalai Lamas after that would come and clip pieces that make medicines with it. There's also grass that grows at Ganden, and they cut it and make medicinal tea with it. It's called Lama Tsongkhapa hair. Lama Tsongkhapa's hair. I've had some of this tea. It's amazing. It's like really a cure-all. It's quite extraordinary. So that's Lama Tsongkhapa, J. Rinpoche, sometimes called. He was extraordinary. He did, if we talk about maybe doing 100,000 prostrations, I think he did 3 million. Okay, so somebody like that, not an ordinary being. And this is his stories from his life, significant life. So the last one is famous, is this merit field. And what we mean by a merit field, it's a field of holy beings we visualize in a practice, in front of which, through our practices, we can accumulate merit, positive energy, which you need to get enlightened. So some of the lamrim books, like Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, will describe in detail this merit field, who everybody is. Okay? Make it real for yourself. You can get a sense of the merit field. It's very detailed, so it's a lot for our minds. But put your lamas in there, around Lama Tsongkhapa. Have your own, you know, a little bit like that. Maybe you just have a few lamas, no problem. You just put them to the side and make this so that these are real beings, and that's how these beings came about. They were real beings in ancient days, and so the Lama Tsongkhapa merit field. And what you can do is, in some practice I do, I leave it out there all day. So if I'm going to have a cup of water, I first offer it to them. Just symbolic in my mind. I don't have to, and I can say Om Ahong, Om Ahong, Om Ahong, my mind, and then I drink. Okay, so I get the merit from that. You offer flowers, and you can first think of them, offer to them, they're always happy. You put the flowers down. Before you have dinner, you first think of them, so you think of Tara. Tara's there on your crown. We left her out there. At the end of the day, I dissolve that merit field, and then I go to sleep with that in a certain mind state. And so you take Tara, and at the end of today, we're going to dissolve her to help bless your mind, body, speech, and mind. Okay. So we're going to do some meditation, then we're going to take a short break. So just sitting comfortably. Please lightly close your eyes. Find that comfortable meditation posture for the body. take a moment to simply reestablish your motivation for being here. Recall Tara over top your crown. Ask her from your heart to bless your mind and help you with this session. And bring your awareness to your breath. So let's just try 10 minutes. Concentration. Work at your own pace. If you're very scattered, simply relax your mind, take it off the breath, sit in your place and just open your eyes and look around the room if you find it, and then just close your eyes. Give yourself 10 or 20 seconds. Close your eyes and then begin again, and just keep the focus on your breath. And if you'd like, place a radiant golden drop just outside the nostrils where the air enters in and leaves the body. And place all of your concentration there. If it begins to fade or you're about to lose your focus, brighten the intensity of the drop. So when the mind wanders, you simply observe and bring it back to the drop. So, moving on in the lamrim, after having some appreciation for your precious life, being a human meeting the Dharma, we realize that this situation is quickly passing away. Let's just consider death for a moment, even though it's a challenging topic for us to look at, this ultimate transition. There's a traditional 9-point death meditation. There are 3 points under 3 headings. So each heading has 3 points. Death is certain. The time of death is uncertain. And the only thing that really benefits you at the death time is your spiritual practice. Let's just consider death is certain. Let's just look at one of these points. Point number 1, there is no power in the universe that can stop death from coming to you. There is no power in the universe that can stop death from coming to you. Think about it. Who do you know who has lived forever? Who's the oldest person you know? And think about well-known people on the planet. The greatest thinkers, people we might label genius, like Einstein, they died. Neil Armstrong walked on the moon, could do something pretty extraordinary like that, and he died. Think of the most creative beings on the planet, like Mozart. He couldn't create a way to avoid death. The most powerful beings on the planet who can destroy the planet have not been able to figure out a way out of death. The richest people on the planet can't buy their way out of it. What about spiritual people? Jesus died. Mother Teresa. Even the Buddha died. So how is it that you feel you are immune from this situation? Consider from all these angles. Again, if you come to a juicy feeling that I am definitely going to die, hold your concentration there as long as you can to deepen that insight. When it fades, go back and analyze again. Who do you know that will be able to escape death? Death is definitely coming to you. And just think, I am definitely going to die. Think about the holidays you plan for, your retirement. You plan to go out to dinner next week with someone or to the movies. You're planning on buying a house, getting a new car, having a baby, changing jobs. We plan all these things. And you don't know if that's going to come first. And those things, you don't know if they'll happen, but death, it's definitely going to happen to you. Think about that. So we often also think, going on with some of the points, that we're going to live to be old. We even use language, when I'm old. You don't know. So the time of death is completely uncertain. Okay, because we live in a world system with an unfixed lifespan. Take a moment and reflect at all the different ages people die. People you know, people you have heard or read about. There's no fixed amount of time you get. So my death, it could come at any time. Am I ready? Is my mind ready? This is not to cripple you with fear. The fear motivates you to practice. The other reasons we don't know when we'll die, there's many things out there contributing to your death. Accidents, natural disasters, terrorism, various illnesses, environmental toxins, food poisoning. Could go on and on. And then consider how delicate the body is. People go in the hospital for minor surgery, and they die. You cut your toe, raking in your yard, and that night fighting for your life with flesh-eating bacteria. That happened to someone I know in Santa Cruz, California. So just consider events from your own life. Of all the different ways people die, how many things seem to be moving us in that direction, and how delicate the body is. So just consider, I'm definitely going to die, and I have no idea when that will be. I am definitely going to die, and I have no idea when my death will come. So can you make a resolution from the time of death is uncertain that not only must I practice, I have to do it now. Feel that in your bones. I have to get something started consistently now. There's no better time to start than right now. What benefits you at the death time? Think about what is it that's most helpful to you when you're actively dying. Some of you have been around people actively dying. Let's think about 3 situations. Your possessions. How's your money and your possessions? And what about your position, your identity? How does that help you when you're dying? Consider deeply. Do you have a number of possessions you're very attached to now? Are you concerned about the wrong person walking off with something of yours? So what is it like if you're actively dying with that in your mind? What about family and friends? It seems like that would be the most helpful. What if they don't know spiritually what you want, and they're doing or saying the wrong thing? What's that like? What if they're crying over you? What if they're begging you not to die, not to leave them because they need you? How does that work with your actively dying mind? What if they're fighting over your belongings or arguing about something in the room near you? So the third thing, your body is of no help to you when you're dying. It's often your body that got you into the dying situation to begin with. There's support there. The best thing is the Dharma practice. That's what will be there in your mind when you're dying. So can you make a resolution from these 3 points that not only will I practice, not only will I practice now, but I will practice well. So that's what automatically arises in my mind when I'm dying. Something I'm familiar with that's positive and beneficial. Make that commitment to yourself if you can. Please relax. Open your eyes. I mean, you don't want to be so depressed you can't do your practice, but it is a sobering thought. But it is, again, to motivate you to practice. And coming from the next thing is what's going to, some of the meditations that follow involve refuge. So let's just close our eyes and consider a little bit. We're going to look briefly at some of refuge and karma. How do we practice them? So the variations on how to do these meditations. With refuge, let's just consider, for instance, the qualities of Shakyamuni Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha, the historical Buddha we know of. So find that meditation posture again. We talk about the 3 jewels of refuge, or the triple gem: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Let's just consider the Buddha jewel right now. So Prince Siddhartha, that we recognize as Shakyamuni Buddha, had many qualities of the searcher for 7 years, leaving the palace, this Indian prince, and finding a way to counter gross and subtle obscuration in his mind. Very inspiring story. Sometimes we have trouble relating to the story. We're not an Indian prince like that. Okay? What about the omniscient mind on an ultimate level? The omniscient mind, what the Buddha mind represents, the all-knowing mind. Consider that for a moment. Is that something worthy to take refuge in? You know everything with this mind. Okay, this mind is inconceivable. So for instance, the Buddha mind that is omniscient, okay, not only if someone approaches you, a friend or a family member, this happens to us often, and they need help, they're going through a particularly difficult time. So somebody comes and says to you, lays out the situation and says, what should I do? What do you think I should do? Okay, note your experience of how you advise them. Imagine if you were omniscient, how you would advise them. Imagine if you, capital K, knew what was best for them, but knew wholeheartedly. We give advice, but it's often based on our limited knowledge. We try to advise from our best intentions, but sometimes it is colored by our opinions and our agenda. Consider the Buddha mind again. Unlimited in its compassion, wisdom, loving kindness. All the good qualities. It comes from infinite love, this mind. And in capital K, it knows. It's so vast and spacious and full of these qualities that it knows also all karma, all the past, present, and future lives of every being, not only on this planet, but in all world systems simultaneously. Imagine that mind. Just consider, is that something to take refuge in? Is that something that can protect you from more suffering? Or are the other things you take refuge in better? What about the Dharma jewel? The teachings and the philosophy. Ultimately, the teachings on emptiness, the nature of reality, the truth, as they say in Tibetan Buddhism. This is the truth. This is the real way to see and experience everything and yourself. So what if somebody handed you these teachings and said, this is the truth? This is seriously a way that you can cut all of your suffering. You can actually destroy the root, where the roots come from of your suffering. Not just treating the symptoms, you can go after the roots. And you actually study it and apply it to your life and meditate on it, and you see that something shifts for the positive. Consider your other coping mechanisms, the other information you've been given in your life. Is it better? Or would you prefer the truth? What Tibetan Buddhism says the truth is. Emptiness. Just consider that. And do your other applications of knowledge, other systems you've learned or information you've been given. If you feel that's the truth, that's fine. Does it help you dismantle the root of your suffering? Or does it treat symptoms? What about the Sangha jewel? This is a spiritual community. Are monks and nuns? On an ultimate level, it's those who've had a direct perception of the nature of reality, of emptiness. If somebody's had that realization and had that deep insight, many other realizations come and they understand the nature of our suffering. Is that a proper source of refuge? Or would you say all the other people you hang out with that maybe don't have that realization, better source of refuge? You check. What's helpful after you're interested in taking refuge or beginning to walk this path, seeking support and protection in the proper areas, proper ways, is you want to understand how to conduct yourself. How do I continue to make positive imprints and move myself in that direction? And we have our 10 ethical guidelines to practice. Let's just consider for a moment briefly, there's 3 things we avoid with our body, 4 things we avoid with our speech, and 3 things we avoid with our mind. And they help protect you from getting into trouble. We avoid with our body killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. You avoid with your speech lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, and gossip. We avoid with our mind greed or covetousness, harmful intent, and holding wrong views. Just reflect for a moment. Take one of these that jumps out to you right now. We have them all in operation normally, but some of them we're a little more prone to. Focus on one of those. Consider for a moment when you practice that negativity. Take the last time you can remember, the last incident. When you killed an insect, let's say. When you lied. When you yabbered on about the movie that you saw even though people weren't interested. Whatever it is. Try to understand your motivation for performing this activity. What motivates you to do it? How do you feel about the result? What you accomplished? Where it led you? How would it be if you practiced the ethical guideline? So for instance, killing an insect, what if you got a cup and you trapped the insect and you took it outside? Possible? How does that feel? Can't we respect all life? Is that possible? How does it feel if you counter a negative speech incident? Or counter a negative thought? So in your mind right now, take 2 of these negative non-virtues, and this is your practice until we're back here tomorrow morning. So this is your, 18-hour practice? So you take 2 of those, and that's what you're going to work with this evening and tomorrow morning until you come here. trying to counter, trying to understand the motivation. What causes me to do this activity? How do I feel when I do it? Is it beneficial? Not beneficial? Can I try a new behavior? Introduce a new behavior? How does that feel? So please relax. You can open your eyes. So maybe before you leave, just take a moment. Can you think up your 2 negativities you're going to work on? Everybody have those? Do you need a refresher? Need a refresher with the 10? Okay, we're avoiding killing. That includes insects. Okay? Stealing. Sexual misconduct. Lying. Divisive speech. Harsh speech. Gossip. Covetousness or greed. Harmful intent, also called ill will. And holding wrong views. Holding wrong views would be, she said we're going to die, the Dalai Lama says we're going to die, that's garbage. I think I'm going to live forever in this body. Or smoking cigarettes is good for your health. It's different than being discerning about the Dharma and saying, I'm not sure about reincarnation, I'm just going to put it over here for the time being. That's different. That's okay. Everybody with me? Everybody? You got your 2? Anybody not have their 2? Okay. You try. Try your best. Okay. Just see how it works. You have to start practicing. Some of you are already practicing, but you have to start really getting real with your mind to counter behavior. And what most people find is they start to make slight adjustments and they're happier. They're kind of like, oh, I can do this. I can clean up my act. And you start feeling better about yourself. Motivates you to practice more. Questions, comments? Anything from today? You doing okay with the meditations, the formats? Making sense? You're really great, you're really good sitters. Very quiet in this room, especially when the air conditioning's off. It's a really nice space for a retreat like that. Got a nice space here. Well, I want to thank you very, very much for your time, because it's a beautiful day out there. It's a really worthwhile thing to come inside and then to go further inside. Okay? It's really, really very powerful for you. So I hope it's beneficial. I hope you can come back. I hope some people will come back tomorrow. We're going to go on with different meditations. Some of it may be the same and some will be a bit different. And what I would ask, please, if it's possible, try not to junk yourself up too much the rest of the day tonight with like getting the TV on and the phone. See if you can keep a little bit of this space. It's not that long of a time. It's just a couple of days. So treat yourself. Indulge yourself and just see, why don't I just, it's a beautiful day, go out in the nature, watch your mind. See if it's possible to keep a little bit of that space, if you like. And we're going to dedicate the merits. So what we do in closing is take all the positive energy we've created. And the first thing we're going to do is we have little Tara on our crown right now. So slowly allow her to dissolve from the edges of that visualization into the center. She's really going to energize and inspire us and allow that little emerald green drop to come to our crown, slowly melting into us. As much as possible, feel all the blessings of her holy body, holy speech, and holy mind. We're going to turn to the gold prayer book, please. Page 235. These are 3 standard dedication prayers. I thought we'd chant the first couple. Page 235. This third paragraph is a condensed version of a very powerful, beautiful dedication prayer called the King of Prayers. Amazing prayer. I mean, you can read prayers more quickly. So that prayer, I can do it in 10 minutes, and it's not about doing it quickly or not. It's just contains everything and is in there if you want to do dedications. Perfect. It's also very good to do when someone's dying or when someone has just died. A lot of people say, what do I do? What do I do? What you do is you do Medicine Buddha practice, which is something you can read in English. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour, and you dedicate with the King of Prayers. Those are 2 fundamental, easy things you can do within an hour. So here it is, totally accessible. This is the short prayer, but it would be better to read the long one. So we'll just recite this 4-line verse. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. So Manjushri is the Buddha of infinite wisdom. Samantabhadra is an offering wizard. So he would offer 1 tea light, and it would multiply into infinite tea lights. Page 244, the long life prayers for the Dalai Lama, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Page 244. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplished magnificent prayers honoring the 3 jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Thank you very much. Thank you.